Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the Chatter House, and it's actually the Chatter House Reacts, but it's going to be a bit of a different reaction today. Because again, it's not music or anything like that. This is, I suppose you want to say it's a history reaction, and it's going to bring back some memories. Today, we're going to be looking at what £5 could have bought you. Now, I know the title says 70s, but it's actually 1975. So this is going to be a hoot to see what we could have bought with a simple £5 note. Just before I do so, folks, if you haven't done this, please consider doing so. It doesn't cost a penny. There's no membership or anything in this channel, folks. Everybody gets a fair crack of the videos. You know, there's nobody gets privilege over anybody, because that's the way I like to keep it. Okay, so we'll get the earphones on in case I forget and then I don't hear nothing. Done that before. Right, so let's get the video up and look to see. Oh my god. Oh my god, I have to stop. Look at that fiver. Look at that old fiver. I haven't seen a fiver like that in a long time. So this is what could a fiver buy you in 1975, which I must add, I would have been 4 years old. So here we go. Let's have a check. It's going to be funny.
In 1975, a £5 note meant something. The average working man brought home around £45 a week, so £5 wasn't spare change. And when your gran pressed one into your hand at Christmas, you felt like the richest kid alive. That fiver could do things in 1975 that you wouldn't believe today. And in this video, I'm going to show you just how far it really went. At 73 pence a gallon, £5 bought you roughly 6.5 gallons of petrol. Put that in a Ford Cortina, doing 30 miles to the gallon, and you're looking at close to 200 miles. A Sunday trip to the coast and back, no problem. And the part that really stings is you didn't lift a finger. An attendant walked out, filled the tank, checked your oil, and wiped the windscreen while you sat in the driver's seat like royalty.
Do you know, so I actually remember that when my dad used to go to the petrol station. They used to come out and they put your petrol and all in for you, and they wash your windscreen and everything. I actually remember that. So it is true, they did do that.
A fiver barely gets you 4 litres now, and you're standing in the rain pumping it yourself. That same fiver could walk you into Woolworths and out with 2 brand new albums from the charts. An LP cost around £2.50. In 1975, that meant you could pick up Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here and Queen's A Night at the Opera and still have coins left over. Both came out that year. You'd stand at those racks flicking through the sleeves, pulling one out to study the artwork, and walking home with 2 records under your arm felt like you'd won something.
I used to buy a record every week. Every week I used to go out. Obviously it wasn't then, it was a wee bit later. But I bought a record every week. Nearly every week. Unbelievable.
Same albums on vinyl now cost £35 or more. Before McDonald's had really turned up, Wimpy was the place you went when you were eating out. Nearly 400 branches across Britain, all with table service and proper metal cutlery. You sat down and someone brought your food on a plate. A fiver easily covered 2 of you for a proper.
Okay, I just want to say, so I'm sorry to keep stopping, but the thing about it is, see, Wimpy. Now, Wimpy was always on the mainland in the UK and London and surrounding areas, whatever. We didn't get Wimpy until much later. I think it was the 80s we got Wimpy, but when they did eventually come here, they weren't here very, very long, and then they were away again, you know. I am aware today that the Wimpy is, I don't know if it's making a comeback or not, but I know there is an odd store about, but not to the extreme as they used to be. We had more Scandia restaurants. We didn't have really any chains, you know, obviously because of the troubles in Northern Ireland. A lot of the chains and stuff in those days didn't want to come over, so that's why we didn't have them until later, because McDonald's or nowhere came over here until sort of the 80s and late 80s, you know, so Just thought I'd fill you in there.
meal. 2 wimpy international plates, a brown derby each for pudding, maybe a couple of whippy milkshakes, and you'd spend around £2.50.
Sorry, I have to do this. Hold on. What's a brown derby? Oh, it's some sort of dessert. I've never heard of that. If anybody can tell me in the comments what a brown derby is. Now, I can see it there, but I can't see exactly what's in it. So what is it? Hold on a minute. Hold on 2 seconds. Hold on. Uh-huh. Is that chocolate? It is Knickerbocker Glory. You know what that is? Is that chocolate? Right. So what I want to know is, folks, what is a brown derby, please?
People had birthday parties at Wimpy. First dates happened at Wimpy. You got dressed up to go, and the change from your fiver still covered the bus ride home. If football was more your thing, a fiver stretched even further. Terrace admission was around 70 pence each, a matchday programme cost 10 pence, and a pie with a cup of Bovril came to about 25 pence a head. Add bus fare there and back, and £5 covered 2 lads for an entire Saturday afternoon at the ground. You'd stand packed in on the terraces with scarves tied to the barriers, feet going numb, waiting for that roar when the ball hit the net, and you'd still have enough left for chips on the walk home. A Premier.
Right, let's have a look at that price list in the background there. Would I make this large here? Right, so half-time prices, right? Pays 15p, Bovril 10 pence, tea 8 pence, and crisps 10 pence. Them were the days, let me tell you, them were the days. You wouldn't get that now. Definitely not.
League ticket now starts at 30 to 40 quid, and the pie alone costs more than the whole 1975 match day. Now, if you were a kid in 1975, the thing you wanted more than anything was probably a scale extric. The starter sets cost around £5, which meant 1 fiver, and you had the best present in the country sitting under the Christmas tree. You'd set it up on the living room floor, race those little cars round the track until they flew off at every bend, and argue with your brother about who got which controller. If you didn't have one, you knew someone who did, and you were round there every chance you got. For boys, there was Action Man. The basic soldier figure cost about £2.50, and the equipment packs came in at about £1 each.
I had an Action Man. Yeah, believe it or not, I had an Action Man, and I had the one I had the wee button at the back, and his eyes moved. God.
Fiver got you the figure and 2 full outfit sets. Maybe the deep sea diver gear with the rubber suit and the helmet, or the commando set with the beret and the rifle. You could move his eagle eyes with the lever on the back of his head, and he had that scar across his cheek that made him look like he'd actually been somewhere. Unwrapping one on Christmas morning was something every boy understood. And for girls, the same fiver bought a Cindy doll and a couple of outfit changes. The basic Cindy was about £2.50, and the little individually carded outfits on the rack at Woolworths cost around 75 pence each. You'd stand in that aisle choosing between them for what felt like hours. Shopping in the rain with the little plastic Mac, Weekender with the tiny flared jeans. Every outfit hung on its own miniature cardboard hanger behind clear packaging. Ask anyone who grew up with Cindy, and they'll still remember exactly which ones they picked. The skateboard craze had arrived from California by the mid-70s, and boards were showing up in toy shops across Britain by 1975. A basic one cost about £3.50, which left enough change for a set of knee pads that nobody actually bothered wearing. The wheels were clay, the deck was solid wood.
No, our wheels weren't clay. Now, obviously, it was later again. Our wheels were like... Does anybody remember the roller boots that you used to have with the wheels on them? The roller boots, and they had like skateboard... Obviously, there were skateboard wheels, but they were hard plastic. It was hard plastic. I never had clay there, no.
And the whole thing weighed about as much as a small dog. You'd push off down the pavement, hit the first crack in the concrete, and end up picking gravel out of your elbows within about 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
Saturday night at home needed even less than a fiver. A Watney's Party 7 cost £1.35.
Okay, so here we go again, because this is an English thing. And I'm not from London or England or the mainland. What is a Watney's Party 7? Oh, better? Better? That's beer. So it must be some sort of beer. So a Watney's Party 7. Let's find out about this.
And that giant tin held 7 pints of bitter. A bottle of decent red wine was about £1.25. 20 Embassy filter came to 42 pence. Throw in a few bags of Golden Wonder crisps at 8 pence each. And
by the way, folks, I'm not promoting smoking here. I'm not promoting smoking. Please don't think so. But that brand that he mentioned, other brands are available, are about £18 today. £18 for that brand. I don't want to mention it in case I get into trouble.
The whole evening was sorted. You'd watch Dad fighting the tin opener onto the top of the Party 7 while beer sprayed across the kitchen lino. Mum would settle in with her glass of wine and the telly tuned to Match of the Day. Nobody went out because nobody needed to.
Can I just say something, folks? Look at that wallpaper. I remember that wallpaper, you know.
If you wanted a trip out, Jaws was in British cinemas in the summer of 1975, and it was the film everyone was talking about. An adult ticket was about 55 pence, with children cheaper, so a family of 4 could get in for around £2. Add ice creams from the usher's tray and bus fare home, and you were looking at about £3.50 all in. You'd sit in the dark, waiting for the curtains to pull apart, and by the time the shark showed up, half the audience was screaming, and the other half was pretending they weren't. The whole family outing for well under a fiver. And
I actually know families now who tell me to go to the cinema and you're looking at least £40 just to go to the cinema. At least £40 for a family.
Here's one that sounds impossible now. The 1975 FA Cup final was West Ham against Fulham at Wembley, played on Saturday the 3rd of May. Standing terrace tickets cost about £1.50. A fiver bought 2 people into the FA Cup final at Wembley, possibly 3. Bobby Moore, who lifted the World Cup for England in 1966, was playing for Fulham that day against the club where he'd become a legend. West Ham won 2-0 in front of 100,000 people. The cheapest seat at a Wembley Cup final now starts around 45 quid. A night out on the town didn't need much either. 4 pints of bitter at 28 pence each came to £1.12. A portion of fish and chips on the way home was 35 pence. A taxi back for a couple of quid. The whole evening came in under £4, and you still had change from a fiver. You'd spend the evening leaning on the bar with the jukebox going in the corner, then grab your chips on the way home. The taxi alone would cost more than all of that now. A fiver didn't just buy nights out though, it sorted Christmas. A bottle of Harvey's Bristol Cream Sherry cost £1.69. A proper tin of Cadbury Roses.
My granny used to get Harvey's Bristol Cream, and see that tin of roses that he's just talked about? That's what I call a tin of roses, not this excuse of these wee plastic things you get about that depth there. It's just ridiculous. And do you know, I don't know if you've noticed, folks, every year they seem to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Sure don't, you get into trouble.
Roses, the big one with the lid you had to prize off, was about £1.75. Under 4 quid, and Nan's entire Christmas was wrapped up. The sherry glasses would come out of the cabinet on the big day. Someone would start an argument about who got the strawberry cream, and that tin would spend the next decade sitting in her kitchen holding biscuits long after the chocolates were gone. If Dad was the one you were buying for, a bottle of scotch did the job. Bell's, Teachers or Haig cost about £3.50. A fiver bought the bottle and left a change for a bottle of lemonade or ginger ale to mix with it. The drinks cabinet in 1975 was a proper piece of furniture with glass doors, a little light that came on when you opened it, and a mirror at the back that made 3 bottles look like 6. You didn't touch it unless there were visitors, or unless
That's
it was
right.
Christmas, or unless Dad decided it was that kind of evening. A British Rail day return to the nearest city cost about £1.50, which left £3.50 from your fiver for the rest of the day. A cup of tea and a sandwich at a cafe, a browse round the shops, maybe a film in the afternoon if the timing worked. You'd hand over your stiff orange ticket at the barrier, find a seat in the carriage and buy a cup of tea from the buffet car in a paper cup that was never quite hot enough. But it was your day out, your adventure, and a fiver covered the whole thing. School dinners cost about 15 pence per meal per child in 1975, which meant £5 covered roughly 30 dinners. That's over 3 weeks' worth for 2 children, or over 6 weeks for one. Mum handing over the dinner money on Monday morning in a
That's
little
right.
brown envelope was something millions of families did without thinking about it. You'd line up in the hall with your metal tray, slide it along the counter and eat whatever landed on it. The mash was lumpy, the mince
Sorry to stop us, but we didn't have those. We had proper plates. You know, we had our soup and then our dinner and then our dessert. We didn't have those things. And can I just say something? I know a lot of schools use these today, but I think they're horrible. And even use the plastic ones. And I think it just reminds me, it's like prison. I think it's desperate and shouldn't be using it. Bring back the plates. You know what's wrong? I don't want to wash them. That's what it's all about.
was grey and the custard always had a skin on it, but it was
That's right.
hot, it was filling, and for a lot of kids it was the best meal of the day. When
That's right.
September came around and the kids needed kitting out for school, a fiver covered most of the basics. A pair of school shoes from Woolworths or the market cost about £2.50. Grey trousers or a skirt and a couple of white shirts from the co-op came to another £1 or £2. It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough to send a child back through the gates looking clean and presentable. New shoes that hadn't been broken in yet, Mum telling you to keep them polished, and the same routine every family went through at the end of August. A genuine Wrangler or Brutus Gold denim jacket from Foster Brothers or one of the high street chains cost about £4.75 in 1975. That jacket was the uniform of the British teenager that year, worn over a t-shirt with high-waisted flares and a pair of platforms, collar turned up, maybe a badge pinned to the chest. One fiver, and you walked into school on Monday morning looking the part, and everyone noticed before you'd said a word. By 1975, a basic portable transistor radio from Boots or Comet was coming in at around £4.95. It wasn't much to look at, just a plastic box with a dial and a tinny speaker, but it was yours. You took it to the park in the summer, held it to your ear on Saturday afternoons for the football results, and kept it under your pillow at night to listen to Radio Luxembourg after the lights went out. That was your own private line to the outside world, and a fiver covered it. Something else that cost £4.95 by late 1975 was a pocket calculator, which would have been unthinkable just a few years earlier, when the same thing cost £50 or more. A basic model from Boots or Woolworths that handled addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. You pressed the buttons and the answer appeared like magic. Your teacher did not want you bringing it into the classroom, which made you want to bring it even more. The colour TV license.
It just shows you that in those days the teacher didn't want you bring the calculator into school. But when I went into secondary school, we were encouraged to use calculators and taught how to use calculators. So it just shows you how the curriculum and stuff and how different things change. You know, it's unbelievable. We're going to hear about the TV license now. This will be good.
Rose to £18 in April 1975, which meant a fiver covered just over 3 months of it. 3 months of television in 1975 included the very first series of Fawlty Towers, which started on BBC Two in September that year. It included the Generation Game with Bruce Forsyth on Saturday evenings, Top of the Pops every Thursday, and Morecambe and Wise whenever they were on. The whole family gathered round one set for all of it. Everyone knew someone who didn't have a license and lived in fear of the detector van coming down the street or the knock on the door from the man with the clipboard.
That's
First-class
right.
stamps were 7 pence each in
Oh my
1975,
God.
which meant a fiver bought you 71 of them. 71. That was enough to post a Christmas card to every relative, every friend, every neighbour, the milkman, the postman, the teacher, and still have stamps left over. You'd sit at the kitchen table on a December evening, writing them all out, licking the backs one after another, then walk them down
That's
to the
right.
postbox on the corner. A 7-inch single at Woolworths cost about 50 pence, so a fiver bought you 10 brand new records. Bohemian Rhapsody came out in October 1975 and became
Yes.
one of the biggest selling singles of all time. Space Oddity was re-released the same year and went straight to number 1. You could own both of those and still pick out 8 more from the racks for the price of 1 blue note. You'd take them home, drop the needle onto the vinyl, and hear a song you'd been waiting weeks to own fill your bedroom for the first time. The iconic 8-hole Dr. Martens boots retailed at about £5 in 1975. 1 5.
Has anybody seen the price of Dr. Martens shoes or boots now? It's ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you something now. We used to wear the Dr. Martens shoes as school shoes in secondary school, and they're the most comfortable shoe you could ever wear. Now I'm going to say something controversial here. I actually know someone who got a pair of Dr. Martens shoes recently and they couldn't wear them. I actually got a pair before I took a bad foot. I couldn't wear them either, like a brick. So I don't know if they're being made under the name of Dr. Martin or they're being made a different way. I hope I don't get into trouble for this, but they're just not as comfortable as they used to be. But pardon me, we used to, as I say, we wore them as school shoes. Oh, they were lovely.
For a pair of boots that half the country seemed to wear at one point or another.
That's right.
Skinheads wore them, students wore them, and punks would claim them before the decade was out. They lasted for years because they were built to, and they told the world something about who you were and where you came from. The dog license in Britain was 37.5 pence, and it never changed, not once, from decimalisation in 1971 all the way through until it was scrapped in 1987. The price.
Now, here's something you maybe don't know. Mainland UK, it was scrapped, but here, where I am in Northern Ireland, you still have to have a dog license. So once again, on the mainland, it was scrapped, but here in Northern Ireland, which is officially part of the United Kingdom, we still have to pay a dog license. Work that out.
Price stayed frozen while everything else in the country went up around it. In 1975, a fiver paid the license, bought a basic lead for 50 pence, picked up 2 tins of chum at 15 pence each, and got a bowl from the market for about 30 pence. That was everything a new dog needed, and you still had well over £3 left in your pocket. If any of these took you back, drop it in the comments and tell us which one hit you hardest. And if you know someone who remembers that blue fiver and what it could do, send this their way. Please subscribe to the channel to keep these stories alive. In 1975...
Yes, folks, please subscribe to that channel. It's British Media. I'll put a link to their YouTube channel in the description of this video. Now, it's important that you do that because that man, whoever it is, them people make those videos and they put a lot of work in them and do a lot of editing, and I just borrow them or whatever. But that's why I always mention them. So always go and check the original creator. Again, the link will be in the description. You know something? That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. It brought back so many memories. I've got a couple more of these that I'm going to do through time as well. There's one about inventions. Things that you used to see that have been scrapped and banned from the 80s, 70s and 80s. So keep an eye out for that one as well. Well, look, folks, if you enjoyed that wee trip down memory lane as much as I did, please consider doing this. It doesn't cost one brass penny. There's no obligation to do so. but it's entirely you. And also, folks, give this video a wee thumbs up as well, because it pushes us out there as well. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you all very, very soon. Thank you.